Hello and welcome to episode 3 of the Her Helping Habit podcast, where we discuss egg donation, surrogacy, infertility, and a whole host of other subjects under that scope. And today we're joined by another special guest, I would say our resident surrogacy expert. So, hello.
Hello, thank you so much for having me. My name is Christine, and I'm the Surrogacy Program Director here at Her Helping Habit. I've been working with Her Helping Habit for a little over a year now. I am an experienced surrogate. I have 5 surrogate babies. I've worked for a few different agencies in different capacities. And when I was approached by Katie to help her extend her egg donor program into surrogacy, I was super excited. So that's what I've been doing for the last year, is creating a surrogacy support program for Her Helping Habit, so that we can offer surrogacy support to our egg donor intended parents who are also looking for a surrogate.
So why did you choose to become a surrogate?
Oh goodness. My oldest daughter right now is 21, and I was a single mom with her, and I just remember the first year of her life. My outlook on life just changed so much, kind of growing with her. I just remember thinking so much. I can't imagine ever wanting to be a mom and not being able to be one. I can't imagine ever being denied the chance at being a parent if that was something that your heart really desired. And so I remember from as far back as 20 years ago, looking into surrogacy when really there really wasn't a whole lot of surrogacy going on in Canada at that time. And so it just was something that stayed in the back of my mind and kind of grew in my heart for a really long time. And then when my 4th baby was born and I knew my family was complete in 2011, I decided to jump into the surrogacy. I had had great pregnancies. I loved, connecting with people on really kind of like a deeper levels. I really am not a superficial person at all. So it just felt like a calling to me. And so I just listened and I jumped in, and that kind of spiraled into a 10-year experience with surrogacy in Canada, which has been amazing.
It's really cool. That sounds like an amazing way to help people. So
Yeah.
can you tell us maybe some of your personal experience with your surrogacies and stuff?
Yeah, for sure. I definitely didn't have like a smooth start to surrogacy. I had a couple of different matches with different intended parents. I had some failed transfers. I had, a couple sets of intended parents that decided to walk away to work with a more experienced surrogate, or an experienced surrogate, period, a woman who's already had a surrogate pregnancy. So that was hard. There was a lot of ups and downs in the beginning. But eventually in 2014, I did match with my first set of intended parents. And we had a whirlwind experience. We got pregnant with one baby, and unfortunately, at 12 weeks, we discovered the baby's heart was no longer beating. So we had a miscarriage, and we decided to try again a few months later, and we got pregnant with twins. So they were super excited. They're, really classic, mom and dad just really wanting a baby, and they lived out on a farm, and so it was amazing to be able to grow that relationship with those intended parents and see them grow and change into parents, and then watch them with their boys. They had twin boys, and to get to see them go through all of those beginning stages and watch the boys grow. They're going to be 8 years old this summer, and so they literally live 15 minutes from me now, which is amazing. I don't get to see them too often. We're all busy, but I've always stayed pretty close with them, and have a really good relationship. So that was, a great first experience for me, and kind of got me hooked.
That's an amazing story.
Yeah. And so I went on to have 3 other pregnancies for 2 different families. So altogether, I've carried for 3 different families, 5 babies, which kind of created lots of different experiences. And now I've kind of shifted that role from being a surrogate and being super involved with my own intended parents to helping new surrogates coming in and helping intended parents coming into this world understand and feel heard and supported and have like a genuine connection with somebody that really cares about their journey.
Yeah, I think that's amazing that you got to kind of go through that transition and continue on helping people in that way. Yeah, and what about other families you've worked with or other experiences that you've had? Do you want to share any of those?
My last 2 surrogacies were with same-sex parents that I connected with in 2018. And so I had a little girl in the fall of 2019 and another little girl in the fall of 2021. And they are now like just living the life. They went to Mexico for New Year's. I got pictures of them on the beach, and like just to see the sisters together, it's just I don't even know how to describe it. The best way I can describe it is, I think once you become a grandparent and you see your children having children, I feel like that's the way I look at my surrogate babies, like a grandparent would look at their grandchild, or like an auntie would look at their niece or their nephew, right? It's such a magical experience. I wouldn't trade any of that for anything.
Oh, that's very enlightening, actually. I've never thought too much about how you would view that relationship, but that's really interesting.
Well, because in Canada, really, surrogacy is relationship based and really should be relationship based because it's illegal to be compensated for a pregnancy in Canada, right? So surrogates are reimbursed for all their pregnancy related expenses throughout their journey. So they're not out of pocket for anything, but because you can't be compensated, it really does push the relationship factor. And that's kind of how I've always been with my intended parents that I've carried for, is, it really is building that friendship like right from the beginning and being able to go through all of the ups and downs of the surrogacy journey with them, as a partnership, as a team. And so that's kind of why I was super excited when Katie asked me to help build a program, because I thought, let's build something where, the agency, the intended parents, and the surrogate all work together as a team to support each other in their own unique ways and experiences. And so, it's just such a phenomenal thing to see come to fruition now after a year of working pretty hard on putting all the steps and stages into place. Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, that sounds like something to be really proud of.
Yeah, yeah.
So what was your favorite part about being a surrogate?
Oh my goodness.
Wait, that's
Just one favorite part?
you can say a few. I'm not going to put a
You
limit
know,
on it.
yeah, it's really hard to say because every experience is so unique, but I think it really just boils down to really loving being pregnant. I loved knowing that I had a life growing inside of me. I loved feeling them moving and kicking. And I love sharing those experiences with my kids, and taking pictures and sending them to the intended parents and involving them, the best way that they can. But I just always felt like, I just really loved being pregnant and knowing that I was able to give to a family something that, they just couldn't do on their own.
I mean, that's a great answer. That's what it's all about, really, right? So, what was the reaction of your friends and family when you told them that you were going to be a surrogate?
I definitely had mixed reviews. I remember when I was pregnant with the twins, my mom's sister, my aunt, said to me, well, what happens if they decide they don't want the babies? Like, what if they take them home and they're overwhelmed and they decide they don't want to keep them? And I just remember thinking, Like, to me, that had never even crossed my mind, because to me, I had built a relationship with this family and I knew how much they wanted babies. There was no way that that would ever happen. First of all, they're not mine genetically, so they couldn't give baby back even if they wanted to. I think it just came from a place of not understanding and just being a little bit, naive to the whole process. So there definitely was mixed reviews in there, but I think, over the years, my family's just come to be like, well, it's every other year this is happening. So sometime Christine's going to tell us she's pregnant again. So I think they've just come to accept it and know that that's part of my way of, giving back to the human race and allowing something beautiful to happen that otherwise couldn't happen. I think if we haven't learned anything in the last couple of years, is that life is pretty precious. And if you can help somebody realize a dream, why wouldn't you do that? It feels like in a time of kind of like darkness or sadness with everything going on in the world, who doesn't want something beautiful and miraculous to focus on, something that brings such happiness and joy to people? I think we all need a little bit more of that in our lives.
So what advice would you give to those interested in kind of both pursuing finding a surrogate to carry their child, and for those interested in becoming a surrogate themselves?
Oh boy, those are some big questions. My number one piece of advice to either new intended parents or women looking into surrogacy is do your research. Don't jump in 5 seconds when your first Google search. Talk to everybody, talk to people who have had experiences, see where you connect. There are a lot of amazing agencies out there. There are a lot of amazing people that will give you the gift of their knowledge. All you have to do is ask. So my biggest piece of advice is always do your research, make those connections, build your village, talk to people, because the more you talk to people, the more, you understand the process, and the more you're able to kind of set aside any of those, concerns. Any of those questions kind of get answered when you talk to somebody who's had experience. So making those connections and doing your research and really finding a place where you feel heard and supported and connected by the people around you is so, so very important. So don't just jump. Don't just, connect with one person and think that's it. Do your due diligence and talk to people and continue building those relationships, and they really will help you moving forward.
Well, that's about all we have time for today. Thank you so much for coming on the show. It's been very illuminating talking to you for myself. I hope it has been for our listeners as well.
Yeah, for sure. I know that it's definitely not a topic that everybody understands or, even accepts. There's a lot of pushback when it comes to surrogacy, just because there are so many kids out there already that need homes and families and love. But there are pros and cons, and there are so many pushbacks to the adoption system in Canada, or even worldwide for that matter. Not everybody qualifies, and not everybody is guaranteed, and it takes a lot of time. So it's just really nice that we're able to have this as an option for people, should it fit into their life plan.
Yeah, exactly. I think great to have as many paths open to you as possible, right? Because
Yeah.
things work for different people, different.
And yeah, and it might not be an option for everybody. I mean, egg donation and surrogacy is not cheap by any means. You have to have a plan, you have to have funding, you have to be able to, set aside that money, whether it's from, savings or whatever. It's not a process that to be taken on lightly. So, you just have to do your due diligence, and, not everybody can do surrogacy, unfortunately. I hope that someday, surrogacy will be an option to everybody. I really wish that everybody who had the desire to be a parent could have that option. And, maybe someday they will. But for now, we work with what we have.
Yeah, exactly. Well, you've got to kind of put in the effort to make it better in the future, right?
That's true too. And there's always ways to kind of try to push legislation and to try to, make things better and to advocate for people that, you know, that can't do this for one reason or another. Like there are some great programs that are starting to come into place that will help with funding for a clinic. Like we do have the government funding for IVF cycles for Canadian citizens, and that does help a lot of people in this kind of fertility journey. So that's really great, but it's always good to see things progress and continue, to be able to help a wider range of people.
For coming on. It's been really great to chat to you here today. I hope that this conversation has answered a few questions for some of our listeners, maybe eased some concerns, stuff like that. If you have any more questions or things that you want to know about, a great place to start is by checking us out at www.herhelpinghabit.com. You can get in touch with a member of our team. We have lots of FAQs and information on a wide variety of subjects around this scope, so feel free to do that, and thank you for listening.